snap, be able to say at least when he wears the ring, yes, I played in Atlanta in 1994. Congratulations, Dallas. Buffalo, there are no words. First time that Aikman's gone down in the game, sacked by the press. 30-13 Dallas. The Dallas dynasty is real.
Back it up, guys. Back it up.
How many more years for a runner that's only 24 and is the best in his profession?
I think he's looking for his buddy Thurman Thomas to console him.
We'll have interviews from both sides and two Super Bowl champion coaches, Mike Ditka and Joe Gibbs, to analyze this second half. Bills led by a touchdown, 13-6 at halftime, and that was all they would get as the Dallas Cowboys took control. Here they are. Thurman and Emmett. That's nice. On top of everything else, Emmett Smith is such a
Yes, he is.
heard the words from Thurman, you're the best running back in the NFL. And Emmett then offered the same to Thurman Thomas. Well, that's kind, but perhaps not totally correct. Well, thank you for being with us around the country and around the world. The Dallas Cowboys are champions again, 10 straight wins by the NFC. For Bob Trumpy, this is Dick Enberg. Thank you for enjoying this Super Bowl 28, and stay tuned for all the post-game activities.
The Super Bowl, the year's most watched television event. But in the future, it might be something entirely different.
You want to buy the rights to my death?
The most controversial movie of the year. Where does justice end and ratings begin? Witness to the execution 2 weeks from tonight on NBC.
Larry tried to put behind him his ill-advised decision to buy a Ford Explorer instead of a Chevy Blazer. Still, deep down he knew he had made a terrible mistake.
It's hard to believe, but the first flights used to set down in La Crosse, Madison, and Milwaukee on the way to Chicago. It took nearly 4 hours, give or take an hour. Now they're the #1 on-time airline for a 3rd year in a row.
Your flight's on time.
It's just one more thing you don't have to worry about.
Some people just know how to fly.
They can't speak, but still, they can tell us a lot. At Lexus, we're using advanced crash dummies equipped with a dozen computerized sensors, all to learn more about what happens in an accident. We're rather proud of our dummies. The better the dummy, the better the car.
Ron Majors, tonight on the Channel 5 News.
Welcome back to the Georgia Dome. Bob Costas flanked by Mike Ditka and Joe Gibbs. Jim Lampley is down in the winning locker room of the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll be going to Jim Lampley in just a moment, and we hope to hear the speech that Jimmy Johnson will make to his Dallas Cowboy team momentarily. But in the meantime, you know, it's so easy to play amateur psychologist in sports, and that's overdone. But I think today it's pretty obvious. When Thurman Thomas fumbled and James Washington brought it back for the score, and Thomas had fumbled earlier to set up the field goal, well, we'll stop on that point and come back to it after we go to the Dallas locker room. Here's Jimmy Johnson about to address his team. Apparently, Johnson, there you see him hugging Troy Aikman, not yet ready to take the microphone, and we don't want to risk asking any questions of Mike Ditka and Joe Gibbs in the meantime, because we don't want to have you miss any of what Johnson has to say. As you know, he tends to be very emotional in these moments, punctuating whatever remarks he makes by declaring, "How about them Cowboys?" And so we'll just stay right here, and we'll have plenty of time to hear Mike and Joe and their analysis of the game in just a moment. And Jim Lampley will have interviews from the Cowboy locker room. O.J. Simpson is with the defeated Buffalo Bills, and he'll talk with Marv Levy, if that's possible, and some of their players as time allows here on the postgame show as well. The Dallas Cowboys establishing themselves in all likelihood as the team of the 90s. At least they've got a chance to be that. The San Francisco victory in January of '90, followed by the giant win over the Bills, and then your Redskins beating Buffalo the following year. Those were really 80s teams carrying over into the 90s. This is a fresh 90s team, and with the business and football acumen of Jerry Jones in a new era, salary cap free agency, with Jimmy Johnson and with the talent they have, there's no reason to believe they can't continue.
Well, I have to agree with you right now. I mean, I think they're a little bit opportunistic today, but they're an outstanding football team. They're well coached. They were well organized. They put the right people in the puzzle at the right time. They went out and got the type of players they wanted. They incorporated speed, as Jimmy Johnson said. He didn't go for players. He wanted players who could make plays, and they have players who can make plays. They had two players. Leon Lett made a great strip of the ball. The other kid, Washington, picks it up, runs for the biggest play of the game. Why it happens, I don't know.
Could this game have been different had Thurman Thomas not fumbled early in the third quarter?
I definitely think it could, Bob. I think they had the right game plan in the first half. They were ball controlled, taking charge of things, and I think the turnovers, anytime you turn over, you got it all turned around in the second half. I think they had a great plan. Today, the emotion swung over with the turnovers. I think that it definitely could have gone the other way. I thought we had a game at halftime.
Down to the winner's locker room. Here's Jim Lampley.
All right, thank you very much, Bob Costas. We are ready now in the Dallas Cowboys locker room for Commissioner Paul Tagliabue to do the official ceremony of passing along the Lombardi Trophy. A familiar moment already for Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson. Commissioner Tagliabue, all yours.
Jerry and Jimmy, your opponent today was an outstanding team, but the Cowboys demonstrated again today that they're well on their way to becoming the team of the 90s, ranking with the great teams in NFL history. Today, the Cowboys are only the 5th team to win 2 back-to-back Super Bowls in the history of the National Football League. I congratulate you, Coach, Jerry as the owner, and all your players.
Paul, let me first say that this is possible because a man has worked and given everything that he could give, and I'm talking about Jimmy, since we came here. And his spirit and his effort is reflected in the way these players play. This is a great honor for every fan of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm honored to be in the NFL, and it's a privilege. Thank you. Jim?
Well, Jerry, I think everybody's kind of gotten a kick out of Jimmy and Jerry and thinking that we were at each other's throat. When you win these kind of things, the only thing you're going to do at each other's throat is hug it. And let me just say this. You know, everybody in this room knows this has been an extremely, extremely difficult year. To overcome all the injuries that the guys have overcome, all the things that happened with this football team, for us to come back and win it again, I tell you, my hat's off to every one of these players and coaches, because y'all did a fantastic job. You were not going to come up short of winning the Super Bowl.
All right, congratulations, gentlemen. A couple of questions right now while you get used to keeping the trophy for another year. Jimmy, 13-6 down at halftime. Buffalo seemed to control the first half their way. Millions will want to know, what did you say to these players at halftime?
Well, it really wasn't that big a thing. We made some mistakes the first half. There are 2 outstanding football teams out there on the field. Buffalo's got a great football team, or else they wouldn't be here. And we made some mistakes. We got a penalty on the 3rd down and 1 that kept us from moving the football. We ran into their punter. It allowed them to go and get 7 points. And we threw the interception. We made mistakes, and they had a couple, but not as many as we did. Second half, they made more mistakes than we made.
The psychological swing when Thomas fumbled and James Washington carried it back for a TD.
Well, that was large. I mean, the thing we have tried to do in putting this football team together is in every position we try to get playmakers, guys that can make plays. And we've got playmakers as backups. We got playmakers throughout the roster. And if you give those guys an opportunity, they'll make the plays to win ball games. You just got to be sound. We weren't real fancy on either side of the ball. Yeah, and that's our game. You talk to any coach in the league, and they say, hey, they're not a real fancy football team. They're really very simple. But if you put players out there that can make plays, it allows you to win a lot of games.
A week ago, you established Emmitt Smith against the 49ers in the first quarter. This time, third quarter, first offensive drive, 7 carries, 61 yards.
Well, he's a great player, and we've got a bunch of great players. Troy Aikman, you know, Michael Irvin. We've got some outstanding great players. And that's what I told Emmitt when we went for it on the 4th down on the goal line. Rather than take the field goal, I said, hey, I believe in you, and I knew you were going to put it in the end zone. That's why we went for it on 4th down.
You joined Shula, Lombardi, and Knoll as the only 4 coaches to win this game back-to-back.
Well, that's in good company, and thanks to Jerry and allowing me to do some things that I do, and thanks to these players, we've won back-to-back Super Bowls.
All right, Jerry, we'll have a question for you in just a moment, but right now, if you gentlemen will put on the headsets and get somebody to hold this trophy for just a second, we are about to have one of the most momentous Arkansas Razorback telephonic reunions of all time, as the nation's #1 football fan gets ready to talk to fellow Arkansans, Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson. Can you hear us in the White House?
I can, Jimmy. Jerry and Jimmy, can you hear me?
Very well, Mr. President.
Congratulations. You had a great, great day today. I tell you, you played a good football team, and they played a brilliant first half, and you just came back and showed enormous character and strength and determination. And I think the country, in some ways, is even more impressed with this Super Bowl victory than the last one. And I know you're proud of your team, and I know you're happy tonight, and you deserve to be.
Well, Mr. President, you showed us how to come back about a year ago, and we're proud to be a part of that. And this team has prepared itself so that it can have some adversity, and we've had a little bit of it, but boy, are we thrilled to be world champions 2 years in a row.
Mr. President, you know the two of us fairly well. Jerry a lot better than you know me, but I think if you can kind of look at every one of these football players and assistant coaches, every one of them, they have the same drive that what we have.
Well, I was really proud of you, and you know, I can relate to that, getting down and coming back, and you didn't quit. And at halftime, we were all talking up here, and I said, you know, they still look pretty strong, tackle to tackle, and got all that talent, and you showed a lot of heart tonight. And I think America is proud for you to win tonight. Even the Buffalo Bill fans must know that you showed something really extraordinary, and I think you can be very, very proud of yourselves. And I want you to tell the players congratulations. And you may not feel like making a second trip back to the White House, but we'd sure be glad to see you if you want to come.
Right now, I'm going on a boat, and I'm going to do some scuba diving and laying back and relaxing for a day or two.
Now, that's Jimmy. I'll see you at the White House.
Come on, Jerry.
That's kind of what it would be. All right, thank you very much, President Clinton. Before we go away, congratulations on becoming the second NFC franchise, along with the 49ers, to win 4 Super Bowls. Congratulations, Jerry.
Thank you. It's a thrill, and what's really a thrill is that the Cowboys won 2 Super Bowls in the 70 time, and then have turned around here and won 2 more in the 90s. And we're thrilled about that, and that tradition had a lot to do with it.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much again for your time. Go enjoy the celebration. We will be back to talk to Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, James Washington, and others here in the Cowboy locker room when this post-game celebration for Super Bowl 28 continues. Room with the most valuable player of Super Bowl 28, Emmitt Smith. You won a close vote, incidentally, with your teammate James Washington for the MVP, and get a clean sweep MVP for the season and in the Super Bowl.
That's a great feeling to be back here, and for us to go out and under circumstances that we've been under all year, to rise to the challenge and be back here in the Super Bowl, and to go out at halftime, go down at halftime, down to Buffalo, a great Buffalo team, and to take on the challenge in the third quarter with James Washington leading the way with the interceptions and the touchdowns. I mean, it's just a great effort by everybody.
We're going to show 2 touchdown runs while we talk about this next question. Your numbers in the first half weren't bad, Emmitt, but it appeared you hadn't yet really had an impact on the game. Were you at all worried that that wasn't going to materialize today?
Well, at the start, I didn't know whether or not I was going to be in the offense or not, because we was down to Buffalo, and I figured we was going to try to pass the ball to get back in it. At halftime, I came to North, and they came up with some plays that we were going to run in the second half, and every last play that they called basically worked, and I was happy that they got the ball in my hand.
Ran the counter about 5 straight times in that one drive to start the second half, and they never stopped it.
If it's working, Don't throw it out. Just run it to the defense, stop it.
Thurman Thomas is a friend of yours. His fumble had a huge impact on the game, and now he has been on the losing team in 4 Super Bowls. Do you have sympathy for him?
Yes, I do, because Thurman is a great player, and they all have great players over there. And they definitely deserve to win one. And I'm just glad that they didn't win it against us. Hopefully, they'll win it against somebody else, not the Cowboys.
All right. Thanks very much, Emmett. Congratulations again. Let's get Troy Aikman in here. Troy, come on over. MVP of last year's Super Bowl and winner for the 2nd consecutive year. Troy, I'll ask you the same question I asked Emmett. Interception at the end of the first half. Again, your offense hadn't really had that big an impact on the game. Were you worried at halftime?
Well, we were a little bit concerned, yeah, there's no question about it. They did a nice job of mixing things up on us there in the first half and kept us off balance, and we weren't really able to get into a rhythm. And, you know, the interception, they converted that into a field goal to extend their lead. And at halftime, we just tried to tell ourselves, hey, just hang in there. And I felt the biggest play in the game was obviously James Washington's return of the fumble to put us right back in the game, and then we could stick within our plans. We got the running game going with Emmett there on the next drive, and guys responded, and defense really picked it up.
Were you stunned at Buffalo's inability to stop the counterplay over and over in that one drive?
Well, you know, our philosophy really is we feel like we've got a great offensive line up there in front of us. And early on, they were doing a nice job of shutting down our running game. We were having a hard time establishing anything. And then once we started running the counter gaps and things of that nature, we just let our big guys take their toll on them. And I really believe we started to wear them down a little bit.
With everything that happened going back to the start of the season, Emmett's holdout, the 2 losses, your long contract negotiation, missing games in mid-season, the upset on Thanksgiving Day, does it feel like a much more difficult year than its predecessor?
Well, it was a much more difficult year this year than it was last year. Last year, we came into the season with no expectations except for those we placed upon ourselves. This year, we went 0-2, and nobody was concerned about when we were going to win the first game. They all want to know how that was going to affect us on going to the Super Bowl. So this team has had to deal with other issues, and I think that the guys have played extremely well. They've handled the distractions that we've been faced with, and it's the first one's awful sweet, and it's hard to beat the feeling on that first one, but I'm awful proud of these guys and the way they've responded.
All right. Like all your teammates, you deserve a rest. Congratulations and thanks very much. Troy Aikman of the Dallas Cowboys. When we come back, we'll talk to more players here. We will also talk to the losing coach, Marv Levy of the Buffalo Bills, as this post-game celebration from Super Bowl 28 continues. Win over the Buffalo Bills, the Cowboys win back-to-back Super Bowls and become the first team ever to have begun a season with 2 losses and come back to win football's biggest prize. And with me now is the man who made the play in the 3rd quarter that turned this game around, James Washington, whose return of a Thurman Thomas fumble got the Cowboys back into it, tied it at 13-13, and surely you felt at that moment that you had put your team on its way.
Well, I just felt, I mean, me, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Alvin Harper, and Alfredo, we all get together, and all we talk about is turnovers and touchdowns. And I thought it was my turn. I mean, offense was kind of, dragging a little bit, but I know if we get a ball to the offense enough that they're going to put it in the end zone.
You did a marvelous job of following your blockers and picking spots here, James.
Well, I used to be a little receiver. I was just hoping that I didn't fumble the ball, like I did last Super Bowl when I got an interception. It was just an opportunity for me to showcase my talent to the world. Everybody was watching. And I hope everybody, can see that I can play.
Seeming to rise to the occasion in Super Bowls. A big game and an interception last year. The same thing again this year.
It was a great opportunity for me to play. Jimmy gave me the nod to start. We played 45. I studied my tail off, learning what, the Buffalo has done to us the first game because I was out. I missed it with a bad knee. And, I had some tendencies, and I was jumping them.
You lost a relatively close vote with teammate Emmitt Smith for the MVP award. Any quarrel?
No, I mean, he's my frat brother, Phi Beta Sigma out there, go mob. And if I can lose it to anybody, I mean, he's great. He's consistent. He does it all the time. This was an opportunity that I had to showcase my talent. It doesn't matter. I mean, more things will come to me because people saw what I did.
All right, James, congratulations to you and all your teammates. Michael Irvin has arrived up here and will be standing by. We'll hope to get a chance to talk to him. We'll also hear from Marv Levy for the Buffalo Bills side of the story when we bring you back once again to the Georgia Dome. Super Bowl 28, Dallas 30, Buffalo 13.
In all fairness, year after year, Marv Levy adds to his legacy of excellence as the coach of the Buffalo Bills. But each year, the final chapter has been an agonizing one for him. Now the loser of 4 consecutive Super Bowls, and moments ago, he talked with O.J. Simpson. Here it is.
Coach, thank you for coming out here. You seem to have this game going your way, but you just couldn't overcome those turnovers.
No, they usually are the difference in the game, O.J., and particularly in this one. I think we had 3 and we got 1. I'm not sure if all of them didn't lead to scores. I know ours led to a field goal and stopped one of their attempts at one. But then big turnovers there, and then you begin to press, and you have to come out of your game plan a little bit, try and make a play to get back in it, and we just didn't. They're too good a team for us to do that, too. I honestly would say they're probably a stronger team than they were a year ago, in my opinion.
Well, 3 of those turnovers led to 17 points. In the first half, you seemed to have the game under control with a short passing game running between the tackles. In the second half, you did seem to be able to get control of the game.
No, we couldn't, and we didn't. A couple of screens we tried didn't work very well at all. They resulted in losses. They did a good job of reading them, and we were self-destructing a bit along the way, and be a long time till we get the ball back, and the score kept inching up away from us, and you have to take more desperate measures to try and get back in it, and if they don't click, you're going to fall further behind. That's what happened to us.
The team seemed to be able to take this game more with more emotion than in previous Super Bowls. I saw Darryl Talley crying as he came up to the tunnel. What did you say to him in the locker room?
I said very little to him. I said that my regard for them, had we won the game, wouldn't be any greater than it is, despite the fact that we had a tremendous disappointment. And I told them I admired them, that this wasn't the time for a lot of words. We'll get back together and we'll try it again. Maybe it's an unpopular approach, but I think it's I think this is a team which will fight back. We met a team today that we couldn't have made mistakes on, and I'll give them their due. They were a better team than we were today.
Well, thank you, Coach. Thanks for the effort, and thanks for coming out and talking to us.
This Buffalo Bill disappointment year after year is now reaching epic proportions. You might liken them to the mythological figure Sisyphus, who kept trying to push that rock up the hillside, and he got closer and closer to the summit every time, and then it rolled all the way back down to the bottom. And like Sisyphus, they keep pushing it back up there, and you have to give them credit for that. A lot of us thought the window of opportunity was shut after last year, and they came back.
Well, I tell you, Bob, I've experienced that same thing that Marv's going through, the loss of a Super Bowl. It was awful. Going back on the plane, I thought I didn't know that you could feel that coming in second. But I certainly felt that. I also know how happy Jimmy is right now, celebrating the next 2 months of being a Super Bowl champ.
Some thoughts on Marv Levy and the Bills?
Well, you know, first of all, I want to say that Marv Levy is an outstanding coach. I think the Buffalo Bill organization is to be congratulated. I think what they have accomplished, and I know that they're going to go down as a loser of 4 Super Bowls. I'd like to know how many games they've won over the last 4 seasons. I think that's the significant thing. To stay in there, to hang in there, to overcome adversity. This is a great organization and a great football coach. And I would hope none of those players put their head down. What happened to Thurman today could happen to anybody. He's a great football player. It's not indicative of the kind of season he had. Forget about it.
Although in truth, after the terrific Super Bowl against the Giants in his first one, he has had, as one of the great players in the game, 3 consecutive disappointing Super Bowls now. And speaking of Thurman Thomas, he's with the Juice. O.J.?
Thurman, I know your team wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the effort that you put all season long. Wasn't one of your finer performances. Tell me about the fumbles.
Well, you know, that's the main point, that that turnaround the football game was a fumble, especially the one that James Washington picked up and ran in for a touchdown. Over that, I thought the first half, you know, we played a great game. Our game plan was solid, but we all know you have to play this game for 60 minutes, and those key turnovers that I had led to 10 points, you know, so that kind of changed the momentum of the game, especially the second one that I had that Washington ran for a touchdown.
Well, we know it can happen to anyone. What did the coach say to you right after the fumbles or in the locker room when the game was over?
Well, you know, the things that I've been able to associate with my coach Elijah Pitts and Kenny Davis is that, hey, they always tell me, hey, don't worry about that. Things like that happen when you control the ball so many times as you do. You have to be able to go out there and do the things that you're normally able to do. And, hey, you're the one that got us here, you know. But I wish I could have played a better game in the season.
Well, we know you got a lot of great games in front of you. Thanks for coming out and talking to me. And we're going to go back to Bob Costas.
All right, Juice, thanks a lot. If it helps for perspective and maybe somewhere down the road consolation for Marv Levy and the Bills, Bud Grant and his Vikings, one of the great teams of another decade, lost 4 Super Bowls in the 70s, 3 of them in a 4-year span. Yesterday, Bud Grant rightfully went to the Hall of Fame. We're back to wrap things up on the postgame show right after these messages from your local station. day and night of football coverage from the Georgia Dome, and as we say so long, we do it with respect and appreciation for the Bills, a great but star-crossed team, and with another tip of the cap to the Dallas Cowboys, who once again reign supreme as Super Bowl champions. And now, as we say so long from here in Atlanta, a reminder that 2 comedies which usually appear on Tuesday night will follow immediately. First, The Good Life, and then The John Larroquette Show. As we say goodbye, we'd like to relive some of the moments of Super Bowl 28 and recognize the men and women who worked so hard to bring all of you the programming you saw from the Georgia Dome. For everybody at NBC, good night.
A tackle. 10, 5, touchdown. Intercepted. James Washington again.
Baby, what a game. I shot an 80.